Hi everybody, it's Jason from PumpOut.me, co-founder and lead programmer of the site. I want to show you guys a couple new features we came up with over the winter and point out some key changes and differences as well. Additionally, as we go through these, you're going to find the new user control panel or user experience a lot more user-friendly, and this video will also serve as a way to introduce you to it as well as to kind of teach everyone how to use it, since it is pretty different than what we're used to. First, you'll notice I'm just at the regular PumpOut.me website, and if you normally log in with your phone or your tablet, you'll notice that this looks new and completely different. In the past, we had two versions of our site, the mobile site and the computer-based site, and what I've done over the winter is merge them into one because we found some interesting and cool new tools to make that a possibility so that everyone got the same experience and it minimized the amount of updates and coding required to maintain the site. As I resize this window here, you're going to see the content dynamically changes to fit this window it's in. So as I get down to a small screen like this, similar to what a phone would have, you'll notice the home page still fits a little bit differently, but all the major components are still there and the look remains the same. So it makes it more universal and more like home when you log into PumpOut.me. But this has been around since the middle of last season. What I want to show you is when you log in, and we've completely redone the back end for you guys. So I come to the login screen and I point a couple things out. If you're having problems with your password and say it's not working, you can click this reset password button, fill out your email, and then request a password. We'll automatically send you a brand new random password. Nobody but you will know it because it'll be in your email. And with that, you can log in. Once you log in, you can change your password real easy, and once I show you the new logins in Control Panel, you'll see how to do that. So I'm going to go ahead and click this. I'm going to log in, and all my credentials are here because I visit the site frequently. And you're going to be greeted with a similar screen. You may only see users. If you're also an operator, you'll see this, and in the case of some other folks that actually manage the programs, they'll see this. But for our purposes, we're going to click User Account Management Dashboard. And this is the new screen. You can see it's completely different than what you're used to seeing. There's a lot more data and a lot more options immediately available to you. You'll notice over here on the left, this is the main toolbar. Here we'll bring you to the dashboard. The life ring is how you request a pump out. The wheel or helm will be where you manage your boats. The clock or the folder with a clock is your history, and then finally the exclamation bubble is your chatterbox. And I'll talk about all these in depth, but I'm going to continue with the dashboard for now. Here you can see a quick request area. This lists all the boats that you have in the system. Remember, if you have more than one boat, you can add all of them in. No problems. If I click this button, it's going to add me to the list for tomorrow, 2 May, and this dynamically changes based on whatever day it is. So since today's May 1st, it'll add me to the list for May 2nd. Additionally, this uses the default marina that you set your boat up with, so whatever you currently have your boat set to in the settings over here, that's where it defaults your pump out request to. If that's not accurate, you just need to change that, and I'll show you how to do that too. It's pretty simple. Over here, this will show you the coming pump outs you have scheduled. For some people, they like to schedule 2, 3, or 4 pump outs in advance because they know every Friday they're going to need a pump out so they can take their boat out on Saturday without having to worry about their sand tanks overflowing. And that's great because this will show you all those upcoming pump outs so that you know you don't have to schedule them again, and you minimize the amount that you duplicate on the list for the operators. And finally, over here on the right, this is your other main toolbar, and you can see username or your first and last name are here, and it gives you the option to update your profile, view all of your upcoming pump outs, or log out. Additionally, it shows you which pump out services are running and what days they actually operate. With the new system, we went in and added the ability for the pump out programs to choose which days of the week they are going to operate, and that's for all year. Some pump out programs will operate maybe on a Friday during the winter months just because there are some folks that still live on their boat or do take their boat out in the winter, and some boats and some pump out programs only operate during the summer. So this is all dynamic based on their inputs. As long as they keep everything up to date, you'll have an accurate representation of when the pump out boats are going to be operating for the marinas you currently use. Now, this is all dynamic. It's all based on the marinas your boats are currently housed at. So if you only have one boat and it's maybe up in Groton at one of the Mystic or Groton marinas, it will only show CES, or maybe you have one boat that's down in Brantford and it'll only show East Shore Health District. But I've got a couple boats in the system that I'm using for this this tutorial, and I have one of them housed at a marina that East Shore Health District services, and I have another one that is housed at a place that CES visits. So that way you can see that this is dynamic and it changes based on what you've put in the system. So real quick, if I click this button here, just to show you what happens, this little window down here pops up and it says pump out request received. Now, if I click over here on upcoming pump outs, you can see that it added the Swamp Thing at Mystic Anchorage Seaport on 2 May 2013 for that pump out list. Additionally, it gives me this delete button. This is very handy if you accidentally click that button twice, or you can't make your pump out because your boat's underway, or maybe you scheduled it in advance and your plans have changed so you don't need it anymore. And this really allows our operators to more thoroughly plan their day, because now you have complete control over your pump outs, whereas before you weren't able to remove them if you didn't need them. So we don't need this one, so I'm going to go ahead and delete it, and you can see it just disappears from the list. And this still says 1 because it needs to refresh the screen, but if you click that, it goes away and it reloads the page and you don't have any scheduled. Next thing we'll do is click this profile, and it's just a little picture of a guy. Here you can see all the personal data that you've put in the system and your phone number, as well as gives you the ability to change your password, which is handy if you forgot it at one point and you need to reset it. And last but not least, it gives you the option to take or receive special advertisements from Pump Out Me. We may get into the business of adding advertisements to emails or sending specific emails out for our users. It'll solely be opt-in, and those proceeds ultimately help the Pump Out programs run their boats, because it's a very expensive operation they run, and I know they provide it for free, so this helps offset the cost of their management fees when we do take these on. We haven't taken on any advertisements yet, but that may change. I haven't been approached yet, but just everyone understands that it could happen. And again, you'll only receive those if you want them. If you change this to no, then you'll never get an advertisement from us ever. And we send the emails. We don't give your email address to anyone, so all your data is very safe, and we keep it very close because we want to make sure everyone's data is safe. Next, we'll go ahead and again click this upcoming pump outs. I don't have any scheduled, and if we click this little X, that's the log out button. We don't want to do that right now because I still want to show you some cool things. Maybe you don't like this open because you're on the screen you're using. If you click that arrow, it goes away, and then if you click that arrow again, it comes back. That's an option for you. Let's go ahead and get back to the dashboard, and it just shows everything. You're up and running again. Next, we'll go here to request pump out. This is a great feature because here you can choose whichever boat you want, and you click it, and you'll see here that marina dynamically changed, and it tells you what boat, or correction, what marina it's at. So if I click that down arrow, I can change it. So say for example, I'm actually at Pine Orchard Yacht Club because I took my boat out and I'm away from my home marina. I can change that, and it will put it on the correct pump out programs list so that they don't show up to your normal dock and say, hey, your boat's not here, I guess I can't pump it out. Additionally, click here and the calendar pops up. You can choose any date you want, today, tomorrow, in the future, and it makes it easy. If you're on a mobile device, this may get covered up by the keyboard that pops up. It's an unfortunate side effect of the way the mobile browsers are set up. I haven't figured out a way around it, and unfortunately you may just have to scroll up to see it, but the calendar does pop up, and I've tested it on iOS as well as Android, and it works no problems. It doesn't actually let you pick today because it wants you. We are trying to get everyone to plan it out. If you need a pump out for the day, calling the operator over VHF is always good, and they can add you to the list using the software on their phone. But we'll say tomorrow, and I've already changed my my marina, and here I can add any special notes to the operator. For example, if you want to tell the operator, hey, I left you a tip, or hey, my sand connection is broken, so you won't find a cap on it, or anything else, so that they don't get to your boat and they're confused, or they see something that's weird that you know about and they don't have any issue with it. So that gives you some flexibility to communicate with the operator in case you're not going to be there. Because a lot of times the operators may show up and start pumping your boat whether you're there or not. And that's just to be as transparent and easy for the boaters as possible. So now that we've got this done, I'm not going to include any notes, but I'm going to click this Submit Request, and it's going to load up the screen here, and you can see success as well as the boat name, as well as the date and the marina. And if the marina has a website, you can click it. Say you need to get to the marina for some reason, you can click it here, and it'll tell you we've sent you an email. My phone just buzzed saying I got the email, and sure enough, I've got it, that my pump out request has been received. And you'll notice here the little red number updated saying, hey, you've got 1 pump out scheduled. Next, we're going to go over here to My Boats. Here you can see all the boats you've loaded in the system. Remember, you can have 1 or 100 boats in the system. If you're well off enough to have 100 boats, great. I'm very jealous. But if you're like most of us that only has 1, then you may only have 1 here. You'll notice here we've got a green button that says Add a New Boat. If I click that, it brings me to a basic boat information form. The boxes are highlighted in red. I'm using Chrome on my computer, and I use it on my iPhone as well. The red boxes are required. So fill those out. You'll notice we at Pump Out Me don't require the registration number, type, manufacturer for the boat or the engine manufacturer. It's good information to put in there because we are working closely with boat manufacturers and engine manufacturers for recall information and required repair information and stuff like that, so we can send that out to all of our users that have a particular type of boat or engine. But again, it's not required. We do ask you fill the rest of the stuff in, though, that is red, like your boat name, your model, your year, and your boat length, because that helps our operators figure out what boat you are when they're looking for you, because they don't all have the layouts of all the marinas memorized. Additionally, you put the sand tank gallons in, and that's just important information so they can make sure they show up and they actually have enough room in their onboard tanks to pump you out. And finally, you put in your marina so they can find your boat, and the slip number, again, for identification. If you have any special concerns with your boat, or you have any special requirements when they pump it out, say for example there's 2 valves they have to open, or your sand tank connection's got a key, you can put this in here and it saves it, so when the operators get to your boat to pump it out, they can look at the notes and see if there's anything special about it, and that way they don't have to call you or email you and hold up your pump out for any special requirements that you need to pass along. I'm not going to go ahead and click the Add Boat button because I didn't put anything in here, but when you click the Add the Boat button, it reloads the page and adds your boat into the system. If you click back onto My Boats, you can see that you have the ability to edit a boat. So if we click this, it brings up the Swamp Thing, and I can change all my data here. Also, it gives me this big green button to request a pump out. So if I click that, it fills in the boat name automatically, as well as the default marina, which I have set up for this boat, and then I can change or add a date and then just submit the request. I'm not going to do that though because I don't need to. So I'm going to go back to My Boats. Additionally, you'll see another pump out button here. You can click that so you don't actually have to go in the edit feature or anything like that. Quick access. And you'll also see that 2 out of 3 of my boats have this archive button. The archive button is very good because this allows you to archive a boat so it's not on your list anymore. Say for example you sold a boat or you put it in layup and you just don't want to see it on Pump Out Me because you're not going to be using it this season, or like I said, you sold it and it now belongs to someone else. You can click archive and it takes it from your active boat list and moves it to the archive list. You can always restore a boat. Say, for example, one season you have them in the archives and then the next season you bring it out and put it back on the water. You can simply click the restore button and move it back to the active list. And these little information bubbles here provide additional information on what these tools are if you have any questions. So I'm going to go back to the active list and you can see everything's back up, all 3 of my boats. But you'll also notice that Swamp Thing doesn't have an archive button. And the reason Swamp Thing doesn't have an archive button is because I've got a pending pump out. If I go here to the pending pump outs, you can see Swamp Thing has a pending pump out. If your boat has a pending pump out, you can't archive it. And we've done that to maintain data integrity for our operators and for our programs so that the users, one, have control, the operators have accurate information. But if we have if in a database world, if you have extra records that are just kind of hanging out there, it eats up valuable memory, and we don't want to have just random pump outs that are never going to get executed, messing up the data that the pump out programs have that they have to report to the state. So basically, if you have a pending pump out on a boat, you have to remove it by clicking that delete button before you can come back over here to My Boats and see that archive button. And now that we've removed it, we can go ahead and archive the Swamp Thing, and it disappears off of our list. Next thing we're going to move over to is the history button. If you click that, you can see this tells you how much the average volume of your pump outs has been. So if you've gone 10 times and they pump 5 gallons out at a time, that'll read 5 gallons. Or say you have one day it's 20 gallons and the next day it's 10, it'll then read 15 gallons, and it constantly updates based on your history. And that kind of helps you figure out how much they're coming to the boat and how much they have to pump each time, and that kind of also tells you about how quickly your sand tank's filling up. It'll also tell you how many pump outs over the entire time you've used Pump Out Me have been completed, as well as how many gallons of waste you've saved from pumping overboard by having the services come out. Additionally, you'll see the last 5 pump outs that the system has logged for you, and it will tell you which pump out company took care of it, what the operator name was, and at what time and day they took care of it. And if you look real close as well, it tells you exactly how many gallons they pumped out. So this is good metric for you to understand exactly how much waste is in your tank when you're requesting a pump out, and that will help you gauge how often you need to request pump outs. Additionally, these links are the company names are linked to their website. So if you want to send a good note or a note saying, hey, something happened on my boat while you guys were pumping it out, you have a quick link to get to their website. And additionally, if you want to just say, hey, this guy did a great job pumping out my boat, you can use that link as well. So it gives you options, and that just helps you better understand who's taking care of you and who's conducting your pump outs and what company's taking care of it. It's real easy to forget if you're moving between marina to marina who takes care of which pump outs when you're bouncing around like that. Last but not least, we've introduced a new feature called the Chatterbox. Right now it's in beta form, and I haven't uploaded the full beta up to the website yet because it's not quite working as well as I want it to. This is going to be an interesting new feature. We've kind of taken the Twitter concept of, short, quick messages, no hyperlinks, no advertisements and such, and added an additional layer based on geography to the mix. So basically, every time someone posts something in the Chatterbox, it stamps it with a GPS Latin long. And as you load the Chatterbox or as you move around from point to point, it's only going to show geo-specific chatter for you. So basically, if you move from Stonington to Mystic, your Chatterbox and the recent chatter is only going to show you stuff that's happening in Mystic, where you're physically located. And I kind of foresee this as an interesting way to communicate between boaters based on what they're seeing. For example, if you're in the mouth of the Thames River and you notice it's raining real hard, or there's a lot of fish, or there's a lot of traffic, you can post up, hey, there's a lot of traffic here, just so everyone knows. And then if I'm coming in from Stonington, as I get close to that position, I'll see that in the Chatterbox and say, oh, there's a lot of traffic there. That way I can prepare for it. Or maybe you found a good fishing spot and you're like, hey, there's a lot of good fish over here, and you might want to come check it out. And as I get close, I'm like, oh, there's good fishing around here. Cool. Hey, there's Tom's boat. Let's go over there and say hi, since I know he posted this up. So that's going to be an interesting thing that we've put in. There's a couple safeguards that we're going to put in there, like flagging and 3 strikes you're out rules and stuff like that, that are a little bit more complicated to implement. But that'll be coming, and that'll help the community regulate the Chatterbox and make sure that people aren't abusing it. So as I said, this is what you're going to see if you log in on your computer. And I said, hey, I got rid of the mobile site, so why am I showing you this? Why do you care about this if you use this site on your phone? Well, the cool thing about the new system is I click in the lower right corner here, I'm going to resize it like I'm going to a smaller screen, like if I'm going to a phone size or a tablet size. Now, if I'm on a tablet, it might look like this. You'll see that menu on the right disappeared, but now I've got this menu button. If I click that menu button, the Pump Out Admin page comes down, and then it gives me those icons again because I've lost real estate on my screen, but I still need access to this stuff. So if I click that button again, it goes away. But I still have this bar over here on the left, which is very useful. But what happens if I go to a phone? So I'm going to keep shrinking my screen, or maybe I'm on a mini tablet, like an iPad mini or just a 7-inch Galaxy Note. Now you'll see that left bar went away, but now I've got this little icon panel here. If I click that, now I have another menu that I can use. It's the same menu that was on the left, now it's just in a more compact form for that smaller screen that I'm using. And if I click on Request Pump Out, you'll see that everything remains the same. So that no matter whether I'm on my phone, my tablet, or my computer, the layout and the feel of the site remains the same. So it just becomes an easier system to use. And again, as I scroll it down, I'm going to get to the smallest, you'll see it just works. Very easy, all very similar. And when I click the button, you'll notice the screen for the menu changes too, because it's even smaller over here. If I click that and I want it to go away, I just click it again. And my mouse click just represents a finger touch if you're on an iPod or an iPhone or an Android phone or what have you. And as I make this bigger, you can see it just pops open. It's all responsive. So again, we really took the approach of making this as seamless and easy to use as possible while adding a bunch of new features and keeping you guys appraised of the most up-to-date information. So I hope you guys enjoy the new layout, and if you have any questions on how to use it, or you're not quite sure, why something's working the way it is, or you have an idea of, hey, I'd love to be able to do this on Pump Out Me because it would help me manage my pump outs better, or hey, have you thought about doing something like this? I really encourage you guys to shoot me an email at support@pumpout.me, because ultimately this tool is only as good as we make it, and we make it based on y'all's feedback. And the more good feedback or negative feedback we get, the better it is for everybody. So I hope you enjoyed this tutorial, and I hope you guys enjoy the new dashboard. Again, if you have any questions or you run across any errors, please send me an email at support@pumpout.me. And if you can't remember that, when you go to the main website, you can see it right here. And again, I've even put my phone number on the front page, so if you have any issues, please don't hesitate to call. Again, this is my part-time job, so if I don't answer in the middle of the day, that's because I'm at work, but I will call you back. I have no problems fielding phone calls, and I hope you guys enjoy the new system, and please enjoy and have a safe boating season this year.